So, in a sense, welcome to Change at Home. And so you're going to hear the girls in the background answering questions or sharing comments, and I'll be sure to repeat to make sure that everyone is able to hear, because this study was designed for everyone to be involved, including our own children, and in between Chris and I. So as Chris was saying earlier, this is a study on friendship. And I think anytime we want to talk about friendship, we need to know what the Bible has to say about friendship. So I think as we lay a biblical foundation to what the Bible has to say about friends, what does Christ have to say about friends? What does the Father have to say about a true friend? We can lay that out today, and we will follow it up, as we heard earlier, with how we ourselves can become that friend that we desire in others. So right now, I would like for us to start off by asking a question, and this is to everyone here in the room and for those online who would like to submit your comments as well. My first question is, and it's not on the screen, but that's okay. While we're getting it on the screen, that's okay. I want you to think about right now, who do you call friend right now? And you don't have to yell out the names. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to say who they are. Just right now, in your mind, gather all of the people that you call friends. So before we go to the screen, right now, think about the people that you consider to be friends. Close your eyes if you have to, but get that list in your mind right now. Who are the people that you call friends? Just imagine them, visualize them all together in one room. All right. Now, here's the question. What are you looking for in a friend? What characteristics do all of those friends share? And if you were to meet a new friend, what are you looking for in a friend? Now, this is the time for you all to give us feedback. So what are you looking for in a friend?
Someone who shares something in common.
Someone who shares something in common with you. What do you look for in a friend? I know I look for in a friend someone that understands who I am and they accept me for who I am.
Yeah, I'm thinking about can somebody that is and I can trust. It has to be somebody that I can trust.
Somebody that's trustworthy.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody that we have something in common with, someone that we feel will accept us for who we are, someone who's trustworthy. For Star, what are you looking for in a friend?
Somebody you can talk to.
Somebody you can talk to. I think that's probably one of the main things. I think that's kind of how you get the name friend, because someone can actually talk to you. Somebody can actually relate to you on some level. As Faith was saying, you have something in common, which will build the conversation. Okay, so we're building here. So we're kind of getting where you are in your understanding of friendship, so we can understand what the Bible is saying. So next, I want you to consider this question. And this question is, what kind of friend are you? What kind of friend are you? Jael, what kind of friend are you?
I'm a kind friend.
Okay, you're a friend that's kind.
A friend that likes to laugh with you.
Okay, you are a friend that likes to laugh with others. Help them laugh. If they're feeling sad, help them to feel better. Or you just like to join in with some laughter and some joy. I think for me, the kind of friend that I would consider that I am, I'm a listener. I try and listen to my friends. I try and make sure that they know that what's going on with them, what they have to say is important to me. So I think I am a good friend that likes to listen.
I was going to say the exact opposite. I think I'm a good friend. But I think my tendency is to like tell people or give advice, you know, whether they want it or not. That's kind of I guess my liability of friendship. But I like sharing with people. I like giving information. So for me, it is harder to listen, and it's easy for me to share what I think. You know, this is what I think the Lord has. You know, He said His word, this is what I think you should do. So that can be a liability. But I think there are also seasons or times when that's a good thing. So I do think that that's one thing that I do as a friend.
Okay. And I think it's important for us to understand too, when it comes to friendship, when it comes to being a friend or having a friend, we are going to use the Bible to help us establish what that actually looks like. Because I think there's a variety of ways that friendships can take on its appearance. And so sometimes we're kind of shocked when we see some friendships. You know, there's some pictures online where it shows a dog and a cat laying down together. It's just like, what? They're together?
Right.
Or you just see two things coming together, quote, as friends, but there's something that brought them together.
Right.
And so whenever we think of friendship, we can't really think of right or wrong at this point, but we think of, okay, what are the good qualifications of a friendship?
Okay.
So, Chrisard, what kind of friend are you?
I'm one that likes to listen to people and give them good advice when they need it.
That's true. The Star is an amazing listener. Every time we're talking, like I said, I like to talk and share, and we do that with all our girls. And they are all good listeners, and I think they all pick that up from one another. And she's definitely one of those where they just listen, and that's a strength.
And so let's see what the Bible has to say about this. This is a study on what the Bible says about friendship. And we're going to go into some Bible stories that will help us to understand. So we can grab our Bibles, and we're going to go to Judges chapter 11. Judges chapter 11. And when we look at Judges chapter 11, we're going to be looking at a story that, honestly, is not a famous story. This is not a story that most people hear about. It's not a story that most people know a lot about. But I remember the first time I ever heard the Bible name Jephthah. Okay, Jephthah. And I'm just like, ooh, that's a strange name. But when I heard the name Jephthah, it was actually a female with that name. And I was a camp counselor at Camp Wawona in Wawona, California, in Yosemite National Park. And she was a counselor, and I remember it was the week before camp was supposed to start, and we were going on our orientation. And during the orientation, I remember the camp director saying, wow, Jephthah, that's an interesting name, because obviously the camp director had heard this story. He had read this story and asked her, so how do you feel having that name? And she's just like, oh, I feel fine. You know, my parents decided to name me for, you know, several reasons, she stated. And I always wondered, I was like, so what's the story?
What's the story of Jephthah?
You know, they never did go into the details. And I remember going to my Bible and researching what was that all about? What was the whole idea with her being named Jephthah? And this is the story. So the story is Jephthah, the Gileadite. He's from Gilead, and he was a mighty man of valor, and he was the son of a harlot. And Gilead begat Jephthah, okay? And Gilead's wife bare him sons, and his wife's sons grew up and thrust out Jephthah and said unto him, thou shalt not inherit in our father's house, for thou art the son of a strange woman. So Jephthah had a very shaky upbringing, a shaky beginning. It was sort of like he wasn't needed at the very start, or wasn't wanted at the very beginning. And that's a tough way to come into the world. That's a tough introduction to life. And there are those people out there who have had a beginning that was very, very rough. And some of those people we have as friends that we help through troubled times, because their beginnings were very, very shaky. And it's been hard for them to grab hold to something that values them. And so we step in as friends and we're there for them. So here you have Jephthah, fled from his brothers and dwelt in the land of Tob. And there were gathered vain men to Jephthah and went out with him. And it came to pass in process of time that the children of Ammon made war against Israel. And it was so that when the children of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to fetch Jephthah out of the land of Tob. And they said to Jephthah, come and be our captain. Because don't forget, verse 1 says that Jephthah was a man of valor. He was a mighty man. So, wow, they kick him out. You don't need to, but now we need you. So come back and help fight for us. Okay, that's a tough life. That's a tough way to live. But let's keep reading. And so they asked this of Jephthah, and Jephthah said unto the elders of Gilead, did not you hate me and expel me out of my father's house? And why are you come unto me now when you are in distress? And the elders of Gilead said unto Jephthah, verse 8, therefore we turn again to thee now, that thou mayest go with us and fight against the children of Ammon and be our head over the inhabitants of Gilead. Wow. Wow. So now we have a group who turned on you, but now we need you. And so what is Jephthah's decision? Let's go ahead and keep reading and see what he decides to do. And Jephthah in verse 9 said unto the elders of Gilead, if you bring me home again to fight against the children of Ammon, and the Lord deliver them before me, shall I be your head? Will you really put me ahead of this whole great army? And the elders of Gilead said unto Jephthah, the Lord be witness between us, and if we do not so according to thy words. Then Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him head and captain over them. And Jephthah uttered all his words before the Lord in Mizpah. And we've heard of Mizpah before. There was a famous prayer that was prayed between Laban and Jacob when they were leaving. May the Lord watch between me and thee while we're absent one from another. Amen.
So the Mizpah is actually named after the place where they prayed.
Exactly. And Jephthah in verse 12 sent messengers unto the king of the children of Ammon, saying, what hast thou to do with me, that thou art come against me to fight in my land? And the king of the children of Ammon answered unto the messengers of Jephthah, because Israel took away my land when they came out of Egypt, from Arnon, even of Jabbok, and unto Jordan. Now therefore restore those lands again peaceably. And Jephthah sent messengers unto the king of the children of Ammon, and said unto him, thus saith Jephthah, Israel took not away the land of Moab, nor the land of the children of Ammon. And when Israel came up from Egypt and walked through the wilderness unto the Red Sea, and came to Kadesh, then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, let me, I pray thee, pass through. But, see, Jephthah knew his Bible. You see, we can't judge people by the way people treat people. We have to accept everyone for who they are. And Jephthah now is reminding this king of what actually took place as the children of Israel went through this land. Okay? And so he said, do you not know that they went through, they asked for permission to go through the land. And we're in verse 18.
Okay. Judges 11:18.
Then they went along through the wilderness and compassed the land of Edom and the land of Moab, and came by the east side of the land of Moab, and pitched on the other side, but came not therein with the border of Moab. In verse 19, and Israel sent messengers to Sihon, the king of the Amorites, the king of Heshbon. And Israel said unto him, let us pass, we pray, through thy land and to our place. We're just trying to go somewhere. So just let us pass. And Israel was doing as any people of God would do. When we are a part of the people of God, we're not rude. We're not people who just overtake and steal and
I'm doing the Lord's work.
on behalf of the Lord. No, we are people who follow a protocol that God has set up. And God's protocol will always include peace. It will always include these things. So stay with me with this story because we're going somewhere. Already we're seeing evidence of people being treated a certain way, but expected to help in a certain way. So here we have in verse 20, but Sihon trusted not Israel to pass through his coast, but gathered all his people together and pitched in Jahaz and fought against Israel. So here we go. How do we possess it? Well, you wanted to fight. So when you fight against God, you lose. When you fight against God, you get taken what used to belong to you. And the Lord God of Israel delivered Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they smote and they possessed the land. This is Jephthah explaining all of this, girls, to this king, okay? And so they possessed all the coast of the Amorites from Arnon even unto Jabbok, from the wilderness even unto Jordan. So now the Lord God of Israel has possessed the Amorites from before his people, and shouldest thou possess it? God took it, not us. We're not the ones who stole anything from you. These people refused to let God's people pass and chose to go at war, and God possessed it. And so he has explained all of this to them. In verse 25, and now art thou anything better than Balak? Did he ever strive against Israel? Verse 26, while Israel dwelt in Heshbon and her towns and in all the cities, why therefore did you not recover them within that time? So Jephthah is a mighty man of valor. Right. He's proving it, not just with what he can do, but even with his knowledge and his words. Right. Wherefore I have not sinned against thee, but thou doest me wrong to war against me. The Lord, the judge, be judged this day between the children of Israel and the children of Ammon. Howbeit the king of the children of Ammon hearkened not unto the words of Jephthah, which he sent him. Then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Jephthah. This is important. And he passed over Gilead and Manasseh, and passed over Mizpah of Gilead. And from Mizpah of Gilead, he passed over unto the children of Ammon. And Jephthah vowed a vow unto the Lord, and said, if thou shalt without fail deliver the children of Ammon into my hands, then it shall be that whatsoever cometh forth of the doors of my house to meet me, when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, shall surely be the Lord's, and I will offer it up for a burnt offering. And this is where Jephthah goes wrong. You see, Jephthah knew the way of the Lord, but now he goes and he tries to
look at his own way.
Yes, of the Lord. He tries to do his own thing, and it's going to cost him dearly. Because if you just look at that story, and Faith, do you see that there? Where he says, he vowed a vow, and he says that I can guarantee you that this will not fail, that the children of Ammon will be delivered to us. He's guaranteeing it, not in the name of the Lord, but in his name. And so he said, whatever comes in through the doors of my house to meet me when I return in peace shall be the Lord's, and I will offer it a burnt offering. So can you all tell me, how do you offer a burnt offering? Then what does that require? What does it require? What does a burnt offering require?
To kill something.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, it's not just killing it, but then think of more like what a barbecue is. You're killing the animal for the purpose to then do what? To barbecue it, or to cook it, and eventually to eat it in this case. But that's not what they were doing. They weren't having barbecue per se. But if the idea was to take something, kill it, and then offer it as a burnt offering to God.
Sort of like a thank you to God, like, Lord, you came through and here you go. But that's not always our case to decide on how we're going to show God thanks. It's only if God asks. Remember what the Bible says about it is better to obey than to sacrifice.
Right. So the whole idea of him saying, I'm to show you how thankful I am, I'm willing to do this. That's not what God asked for from him.
Mm-hmm.
But this is what he decides to offer. This is going to be my half barbecue. We're going to cook this thing, but we're going to give it to you. We're not going to consume it. Whatever it is that comes out of my house when I get back from this victory.
So this is where I want us to tune in.
We're talking about friendship.
We're talking about friendship. This is where we want to tune in. Verse 32 says, so Jephthah passed over unto the children of Ammon to fight against them. And the Lord delivered the Ammonites into his hands. Sure enough. And he could have just been sure of what the Lord was going to do, because he knew God's people should prevail, because that's how God does it. And he smote them, and it was just, they were subdued. Okay, they just were overtaken. Verse 34, and Jephthah came to Mizpah unto his house, and behold, the first person to walk through his door was his daughter. His daughter came out to meet him with timbrels and with dances, and she was his only child. Beside her, he had neither son nor daughter. Now let's review. What did Jephthah say he was going to do with the first thing or first person or first anything that came through his door when he returned in peace? He was going to offer it as a what?
Sacrifice.
As a sacrifice, as a burnt offering. And who was it that first came through his door? Was his daughter.
His only child.
Now, let me explain. The reason why we went through the whole story of Jephthah is so that you can understand the kind of person Jephthah was. You can understand his background. You can understand this household that this daughter had been raised in. This was a mighty man of valor with a history, with a past. That is not something you want to kind of tell the world, how you were treated when you were born, how you were looked upon, even who your mother was. My mother was a harlot, and I was sent away from home. But Jephthah was able to raise up a daughter like the daughter we're about to read about in just 2 or 3 verses. Now, Jephthah has gone out and he has said these words, and now he has to uphold the words he has spoken. Now, when it came to pass, when he saw his daughter, he tore his clothes and said, alas, my daughter, thou hast brought me very low. Thou art one of them that trouble me, for I have opened my mouth unto the Lord, and I cannot go back. And she said unto him, my father, if thou hast opened thy mouth unto the Lord, do to me according to that which hath proceeded out of thy mouth.
What verse are we in?
This is verse 36. The daughter now is saying, whatever, Father, you have said to the Lord, may it be. That's an awesome daughter. But that's also a respect to her father and who he was. Look at verse 37. She said unto her father, let this thing be done for me. Let me alone for 2 months, that I may go up and down upon the mountain and bewail my virginity. It just means bewail my youth. Just bewail who I am right now. I'm young. I'm not even married. I didn't even have a chance really to live. But I want to do it with my friends. I just want to spend my last 2 months with my friends. I just want to enjoy my final days with my friends. We're talking about, what does the Bible have to say? A true picture of friendship. And I want you to think about something. There's a quote we're going to put on the screen. And that is a quote that says, a friend is a friend till the end. What? When you think about a friend, you had some friends come to mind when we first started. If this was you, Jephthah's daughter, if you were Jephthah's daughter and you were about to be offered as a sacrifice, and you have agreed, Dad, carry out your word to the Lord. Just give me 2 months. Would these be friends that you would take with you for your final days? See, the Bible is saying a friend are people that you want with you when you know the end is near. This is how serious friendship is. This is how serious being a friend really is. Now, when I think about friends, I would hope that I will want all the people that I call friends with me to the end. If I knew I only had a certain number of days to live, then I would want to take real friends, true friends with me and spend that time with me until my very end. Because the end of the story is just this. Jephthah, after those 2 months, Jephthah offered his daughter up for a sacrifice. The word was fulfilled. But I thought about this story and that portion, and I said, wow, when you look at the Bible and you look at an example of friendship, this is a real picture of what a real friend can become. You're not going to want to spend your final 2 months with people that you argue with all the time, or people that sometimes call you and sometimes don't. People who sometimes encourages you and sometimes talk about you. Can we really call those people friends? I want to take a friend with me to the end, because those people have proven to be true through my days of living. This is just an example. I thought it was an opportunity to introduce a new Bible story that people don't normally talk about, while also bringing up what a true friendship can go. There's another story I want us to think about, and we are familiar with Esther. But I want you now to go into the part of the story of Esther where Haman is terribly upset. And this is chapter 5. We go to the part of the story where Haman is upset. Who is that person that would never bow down to Haman like the others would?
Esther.
Not Esther. Mordecai. Very good try, Jael. Not Esther, but Mordecai. Esther's cousin. And so Mordecai refused to bow down to Haman. And Haman has had enough. You see, already Haman developed something to where he said, he worked it out with the king, that he would get rid of all the Jews. And so with him, working this law out with the king to get rid of all the Jews, he thought he could finally get rid of Mordecai. But guess what? It wasn't enough. It wasn't enough. It wasn't happening fast enough. So here we have in Esther chapter 5, and we're going to go there. Esther chapter 5. Chapter 5, verse 10. Esther chapter 5, verse 10 says, nevertheless, Haman refrained himself, and when he came home, he sent and called for his friend and his wife. Well, why is he calling for them? And why? How does he feel when he's coming home? Well, a couple of verses ahead says Mordecai refused to stand up, and people saw it this time. Mm-hmm. So pride is welled up in his heart. And so now he's saying, let me go get my friends, and I need a plan. Mm-hmm. I am fed up with this guy. Mm-hmm. And so this is what his friends told him. And they said in verse 14, let a gallows be made of 50 cubits high, and tomorrow speak to the king that Mordecai may be hanged upon it. Then go merrily with the king to the banquet. And the thing pleased Haman and caused the gallows to be made.
Wow, powerful. So in this story, where when I think of who was trying to kill Mordecai, obviously I think of Haman. But to be accurate to the Bible, Haman did not have the idea on how to kill him, but it was his friends
and his wife
that proposed. You could argue his best friend, his best friend wife, and his friends are the ones who proposed. This is how you get rid of Mordecai.
So when you think about friends, see, we saw an example of a friend to the end. Jephthah's daughter had people who would go with her to the end. They knew what was about to happen to her in 2 months' time. And they just went up and down the mountain. And I want to imagine that they were enjoying life. They were praising the Lord because she grew up in a household with a father who knew about God, who was true to God. And so here we have an example of what friends can also do.
So just because friends are friends
doesn't make it good.
So not all friends are good friends.
And the Bible shows us this. Through this story of Haman and what his friends and his wife, what they suggested to do, it shows us that not all friends will encourage us to do the right thing. But look at how the story changes with Esther chapter 6. With Esther chapter 6, his friends speak again. And when they speak, they say this.
Sorry, I had Esther chapter 6 up here, but
that's okay. Nevertheless,
Esther 6?
Esther 6. And
which verse?
That's I.
Oh, okay. So Esther is.
That's okay.
Esther 6, and we're finding the verse there.
So Haman's friends came and told him pretty much, as we're looking for the verse.
Amen.
You know, you go up against Mordecai, and it's not going to be good for you. What? Now his friends are saying, you go up against Mordecai, and you basically going to die. But his friends were the ones to tell him to build the gallows. His friends were the one, his wife was the one to say, look, you hang him and you'll feel better. But now they're going back and telling him that you are going to reap some really bad consequences if you go through with hanging Haman.
6:13.
Here we go. And Haman told Zeresh his wife and all his friends everything that had befallen him. Then said his wise men and Zeresh his wife unto him, the wise men meaning the friends, if Mordecai be of the seed of the Jews, before whom thou hast begun to fall, thou shalt not prevail against him, but thou shalt surely fall. What kind of friend are those? Someone who would lead you down a road and planning a plan against someone and then go back and tell you, hey, by the way, if you do this, you're going to die. That sounds like the friend of the enemies to send our way. These are the kind of friends that we know did not come from God. But they're the ones who came strictly from the enemy himself.
So they will lead you into trouble.
Lead you into trouble.
And then not just leave you on the back, and then say, yeah, I don't know why you did that, because now this is about to happen to you. So
this is what we are seeing as an example. This is all in the Bible. This is all of what the Bible, these are just glimpses. These are just stories picked out for us to see what friendship is showing up as being in the Bible. Examples. And these things happen in life all the time. Let's look at our final Bible example. A friend can cause the end, is what this says. A friend can be with you till the end, and a friend can cause the end. So you want to end? Don't listen to friends who are not going to encourage you to do the right thing. Our final story is Luke 11. And we are all familiar with this story because actually Jesus told this famous story. And Jesus tells us about how friends treat each other. How friends could actually come in need, but also a response of a true friend will come in our time of need. So here we have Jesus is talking. And Jesus is saying in Luke 11, verse 5, and Jesus is saying, he said, there once was a friend. Which of you shall have a friend? Which of you shall have a friend and shall go unto him at midnight and say unto him, friend, lend me some loaves of bread. 3 loaves, that's it, just 3 loaves. For a friend of mine, my friend, has come in from a journey, and I have nothing to give him to eat. And he from within shall say, go away and stop troubling me. What are you doing at my house in such a late hour? My children are asleep, they're in bed, and I can't get up and fix you bread. But they're friends. And he say, I say unto you, though he will not rise and give him because he is his friend, yet because of his importunity, he will rise and give him as many as he needed. Because his friend was in need. Not because it was convenient for him. Not because it was the best time to ask. But when you have a true friend will even help in a time of need, even when it's not the best of times.
Not when it's not the best of times, but even when it won't benefit them. Because by him getting up to do that, at the end of the day, he was really losing more than he was gaining. He was losing sleep, so he had to wake up. Then he was losing bread because that's what he was sharing with his friend. But Jesus says that's what a friend will do. They're not looking for what can I get out of it. They're just looking at how can I help you, period, even if it costs me.
And that is what we need to consider with this story. Because Jesus just ends the story by just saying, and I say unto you, ask. Now he's turning that whole scenario back onto us. Ask, and it shall be given you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For everyone that asketh, receiveth, and he that seeketh, findeth, and to him that knocketh, it shall be opened. If a son shall ask bread of any of you that is a father, will you give him something else? And I love this, that how much more will God give us what we need? This is a friend. You know, we talked about what's a true friend. What are we looking for in a friend? These Bible examples help us to see negative friends, what we shouldn't want in friends, and what we should want in a friend. And so, to end our study, I would like for us to just basically look at a couple of verses in which the Bible tells us this is a friend. Kind of gives it a definition, but from different points of view, okay? So let's look at this. It says, a friend loveth at all times.
In Proverbs chapter 17 and verse number 17. That's really small for you all to see there at home. But Proverbs 17 is one of the short quote. So you know where you go.
Mm-hmm. A friend loveth at all times, and a brother is born for adversity. Proverbs 17:17. So the Bible tells us that a friend loves, but not just some of the time. Sometimes we call people friends, but we know that those friends have no desire for our good. They definitely don't have anything that comes close to love for us because they don't even care about us. But we call them and give them a title of friend.
And they're not, the Bible says that a brother is born for adversity. In other words, the friends that the Lord will give to us will actually be people that are for the hard times, not just the good times. Mm-hmm. As in Jephthah's daughter's case.
Yes. And so when we're looking for a friend, the Bible says, look for a friend that loves at all times, and it will be there for you. We just can't freely give this title of friend to any individual. A friend title is earned by the actions and by the whole exchange of the relationship. Next, the Bible says, and the Lord spake unto Moses face to face. I'm going to say it at the end.
So they can turn there because they can't see.
I know, I was going to say it at the end so that we can just go ahead and talk about it. And the Lord spake unto Moses face to face as a man speaking unto his friend. And he turned again into the camp. But his servant Joshua, this only the first part is what I want to talk about. And the Lord spake unto Moses face to face as a man speaketh unto his friend. This is how God spoke to Moses. God spoke to Moses as you would speak to a friend. As Moses would speak to his friend, that's how God. We sometimes have this picture of God that he's so far away from us that he doesn't know how to talk to us.
We're here in Exodus chapter 33, verse 11.
God knows how to talk to us. He knows how to get down on our level and speak to us in a way that we can better understand. He knows exactly what we need to hear. He knows exactly how to speak to us. So these are just quotes from the Bible. It's not necessarily something you have to turn to, but they're just quotes from the Bible that I want to let you know are there. This is what the Bible says. Also, James 2:23 says, the scripture was fulfilled which saith, Abraham believed God, and it was imputed unto him for righteousness, and he was called the friend of God. I want to be called the friend of God. Abraham earned that title from God. Not everybody, the Bible says, God called friend. But Abraham and his relationship with God, God called him friend. He was a friend of God. And Deuteronomy 13:6 says, if thy brother, the son of thy mother, or thy son, or thy daughter, or the wife of thy bosom, or thy friend, which is thine own soul, entice thee secretly, saying, let us go and serve other gods. Let us go and do things. We don't always have to do things God's way. We can do things other ways. We're not going to die. Nothing's going to happen to us. You'll be fine. If they try and get you to serve other gods, which thou hast not known, thou nor thy fathers, stay away. The Bible is saying those are not friends. Friends, people who try and get you to do things that you know go against what you know to be right. Those are not friends.
I just want to jump in on that point where that person who you perceive as a friend, they may not be leading you into something bad necessarily. It may not always be a situation of, I'm supposed to study, but my friend is saying, let's go to the club. It could be a matter of, I said, I'm going to study, but my friend says, let's go get some ice cream. Well, there's nothing wrong with going to get some vegan ice cream from Whole Foods and Joe's, right? But if I'm supposed to be studying, that's not what I should be doing in the moment. So the whole idea of a friend leading you astray, it doesn't always mean they're leading you straight to hell. It's just they're leading you out of where your goal, where your focus might be that night, that moment, or even in that semester, even in your life.
Well, even you have to also watch too, girls, and everyone listening. That sometimes the enemy will send a friend to encourage you to go into an area of temptation that you have personally been praying that God will keep you away from. And so you're on a track of staying away from those things. But because it's a friend encouraging you, we sometimes tend to use that friend's encouragement as an excuse to go ahead and do that thing that we have been praying will come out of our lives. So friends can be used by the enemy as well as by God. That's why the Bible is saying, don't go, don't do it. Even if it's a friend that's encouraging you to do it. In fact, we are to be that one to encourage that friend to go in a different direction because of the work that God has been doing in our own lives. I think there are some more.
Yes.
Here we go. Proverbs 12:26 says, "The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth." Neighbor is really friend. So in the New King James Version, you will have the word friend. The righteous is more excellent than his friend, but the way of the wicked seduces them. And we have to make sure that we do not, once again, we just finished talking about this point with the verse before. We have to make sure that the way we follow is God's way and not the way of those who want to lead us in a different way. I thought this verse is very interesting. "A froward man soweth strife, and a whisperer separated chief friends." A whisperer. What do you all think a whisperer is?
Somebody that whispers ideas into your head that weren't there to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Very well said.
And what else were you saying, Jael?
A whisper is like you're doing something right, and a whisper of badness say that don't do this anymore. Just keep doing what you used to do.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is a whisperer.
A whisper is also someone who's telling you to do something that they don't want anybody else to do.
Ooh. So a whisperer can be, because it says it's separated chief friends. So they're telling you something, and it's in your head, like Christara was saying before. It's something that you didn't think about before, but now it's in your head. So now when you look at your friend, it's just like, you're not saying, you're not communicating. It's just in there, and it's coloring the way that you see your friend or that you see the situation. And that's a whisperer. And a whisperer separated chief friends. And that chief friend is good friends.
On that point, as you bring it up, have you ever asked yourself why someone who is close to someone would have to whisper? You know, if we're friends, we're close to each other. Why am I having to say what I'm having to say so low so that nobody can hear it? A word that may help us out there in Proverbs 16 is forward. We don't say that word a lot, but that word is actually from the Hebrew word for crooked. So in crooked man sows strife. And because what they're saying is crooked or not right, they have to whisper. So let's bring that to 2020, where we don't have whispering now as our way always of saying something on the low. We have text messages, we have instant messages, we have social media, we have ways of sharing, communicating stuff that we don't want other people to see, but we're keeping it on the low. In fact, the whole premise and the principle of one of those applications, one of the most popular ones in the world, Snapchat, is to have a conversation that's only existed for a certain amount of time, and after that, poof, it goes away. It's like the modern day version of a whisper, something that's said low, nobody else sees or hears it, and then it goes away. So with the forward man here, it's the idea of having to communicate something that you know is not right, that you know is crooked. That's deep. That's deep. If you got to say it on the low, if you got to keep it a secret, if you got to Snapchat it, do I really need to be saying it or do I need to hear it?
I actually had a situation that happened at school with the girls at school. And they basically, there was a situation where one of the girls, she asked to speak to me at the beginning of school. She got arrived off of the bus, and she was bothered. And she was bothered by the fact that two girls were whispering to each other and thought that they were talking about her. Well, it turned out where all these three girls were friends, but because two chose to whisper, looking at her, turning away, looking at her, turning away, she assumed that they were talking about her. Well, when I brought all three of them together, I explained to them just from the simple fact of whispering and not letting others be in on the conversation, and your whole body language of that whispering will lead people to think that something is wrong, that there is a separation that's happening. And that is exactly what happened. They were separated, and I had to bring them back together with that counsel. We don't want to be somebody who chooses to whisper things in people's ears to cause a problem with other people. Proverbs 22:24 says, make no friendship with an angry man, and with a furious man thou shalt not go. Don't. Period. The Bible is saying do not make a friendship with people who are angry people. If they're already showing you they have a temper, that they will go off on you, that they'll start screaming at you, that they'll push you, those are not the people that we want to try and make friends with. The Bible is saying stay away. And then we have Proverbs 18:24. A man that has friends must first show himself friendly. And there is a friend that sticketh closer to him than a brother. So this is the most famous friend quote, friend Bible verse that people usually read when it comes to what does the Bible have to say about friends. And a friend really must first be friendly. What friends do you have, or what friends do we all have that we're just the only friendly side? They're the other side of they're not friendly. They're not nice. They're not kind. They don't communicate. They don't make me laugh. They don't have anything in common with me. So a friend must first be someone who's friendly. And you cannot go looking for friends who meet the criteria if you yourself do not meet the criteria.
That's what we're going to really focus and dig into next Sabbath, part 2, on our end, the idea of how we want to be as being a friend.
Yes, because those kinds of friends, when you're looking for the right friend and you are the right friend, those are the friends that will stick closer even than a brother, the Bible says. So I think that was...
There are a few more verses there. In the New Testament, I think is what most of these are.
And this is what the Bible says about friendship. Ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with God? If we want to make friends with the world, friends with what the world does, how the world dresses, what the world is watching, what the world is thinking, what the world is listening to, if we want to be friends with all of that, then that's going to be against what God wants. Just simply put, whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of God. I can't think that can't be said any clearer.
Yes,
that cannot be made any clearer. When you think of worldly things, if you want to befriend that, if you want to follow that way, then you know that you're going on the opposite side of God.
So a friendship, a real friendship should never contradict or get in the way of your relationship with God.
Exactly.
And actually, that person is pulling you closer to God because they're also following in that direction to the Lord too. Mm-hmm. So, and when we're talking about friends, I know should say this earlier. I wasn't thinking to say it, but the idea of friendship, we're talking about closeness of relationship. Mm-hmm. So it does. You may be a situation where, again, if you're married, you've been married for so long or what have you, your spouse should probably be your best friend. So this is applicable to the spouse relationship.
This is applicable to any relationship that we consider friends.
That we consider a friendship.
Same-sex relationships, opposite-sex relationships.
Same-sex friendships.
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Same meaning girl and girlfriends.
Exactly.
Girl and boyfriends. Because a lot of times we don't talk about girl and boyfriends in the sense of a friendship.
Right.
Because I know growing up, I had friends that were males. And that doesn't mean that I had relationships with them, but it does mean I had a friendship with them. And so I think just leaving it as friendship, with whoever fits into that category, that's who we should be focusing on. Because no relationship deeper than a friendship should happen if the friendship is not healthy. So establishing good friendship will help you even to go further when the Lord shows you your companion for life. First, have to know how to be a good friend. John 15:13 says, greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Yes.
That's describing
That's right. That's
So,
right.
Faith is talking about an Adventures in Odyssey, which is a story ministry. Well, it's actually a ministry for folks on the family. And you go to their website. They have some amazing stories. You can join their club, $10 a month. Listen to all the stories they have in the catalog. So one of the things that we do as a family is we listen to the stories while we have dinner. And the story that we were listening to last night while we were having dinner was focusing on this man who gave his life, not really just for his friends, but he actually gave his life for his friends and for people who didn't like him. Because of this very verse here in John 15:13, he was so in love with Jesus that he was willing to lay down his life for his friends and his enemies.
Yes. So John 15:14 says, you are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you. Who's speaking in this verse? Who's speaking in this? Jesus is speaking in this verse. But I like this because the verse that comes before it, 15:13, it was Jesus who laid down his life for us. So only Jesus can say, if you are my friend, see, I've proven that I'm your friend because I've laid down my life for you. I've given my blood for you. Now, if you are my friend, just do what I ask. Just do what I tell you to do, because what I'm going to tell you to do is going to lead you to be closer to me. Because I died so that you can be close to me. And if he died so that we can be close to him, if we follow what he says, then his plan will be perfected. His plan will be perfected in bringing us together and allowing us to be the friends and have the friendship with God that he desires. And I believe that is what Abraham was able to establish with God, which allowed him to be called the friend of God. Because whatever God told Abraham to do, even when Abraham didn't understand it all, even when it didn't make sense, to sacrifice your only son, the son that you waited so long to get, to sacrifice him, Abraham said, I got to do it because I want to obey his every command. And that in itself, Abraham passing that test, brought him closer to his friend.
Well, he valued that relationship.
Yes.
He's like, I know this is crazy. I don't want to do this, but I want us to stay friends. You know how we'll do crazy stuff for people who claim to be our friends. We'll do the exact opposite. We will sin against God to keep that friend. Abraham was like the perfect example of, I will lose the whole world. I'll forsake anything and everybody. In this case, I will forsake my son, my only child, like Jephthah, in order to stay with God. I mean, let's let that set for a moment. Because there are a lot of people who wreck their lives trying to keep people in their lives that were no good for them. But this is a situation where he said, and if you ever want to know why would he do that? Because he was such friends, not just a Christian, not just a believer, not just a man of God. You know, that's my friend. And I cannot lose him. And if this is what he wants, I'm willing to do it for him. Because he is more than my God, more than my anything. He is my friend.
And honestly, only Jesus can say, verse 14, you are my friends if you do whatsoever I command you.
Wow.
My friends honestly cannot say that to me.
Nobody else has the right to
No
say,
other friend
because that's
can
going to
come to me
happen.
and say,
You know that's going to happen.
you're my friend only if you do what I tell you to do.
Right, because what will happen is you'll know it's something wrong, and they'll say, oh, but I thought you were my
Friend
The only person who can say that.
is the one who has laid down his life for me.
Wow.
There is no individual in this world that has laid down. My mom is the only one that has come close to laying down her life so that I could live. But no one on this earth has laid down their lives for us to give us that kind of directive. You are my friend if you keep my commandments.
Wow.
And I don't believe any friend on this earth would even want to do that.
No godly
Because
friend.
no godly friend.
Bad friends.
Definitely. All of our godly friends will want to go with us in obeying, so that we can get to the point to where if we were both in a situation, we would put down our lives for each other. Because God has built that relationship.
I was just, when you said that, the picture that came to my mind that I know the girls will be familiar with. You might know this at home, the story of Pilgrim's Progress.
Yeah.
And it's the story of Christian who gets to the point where he's in the city vanity and he's under persecution. But by this time, he's not alone. He's got a fellow traveler by the name of Faithful. That's right. And he and Faithful were in this situation. And Faithful was at a point where he was going to lay down his life. He was chosen to be the first one to die, and not to spoil it in case you haven't read the story. But one of them escapes and one of them doesn't, and man just gets away. But that's another illustration of how godly friends are both chasing after the same thing. They both were trying to get to the celestial city. So I can't really be friends with somebody who's not going in the same direction that I am. I can't be a successful friend. Because eventually we're going to go one way or the other.
Because I think we have established that the Bible, girls, actually gives us a picture of friendship can be a godly friendship, and friendship can be a wicked friendship. But it's still a friendship, right? Because they're still coming together. They're still coming together, and they're still faithful and communicating and connecting with one another.
Right.
But we want and we desire for all of us to have, for ourselves, for you all, we want to establish godly friendships. So I'm looking forward to next week, because next week we will actually have visuals and scenarios and ways, practical ways on how we can make sure that we are friendly as we search for friends. And guess what? We're even going to see that even when we see Christ working on us to make us friendly, we won't even have to look for friends. The Lord will send them our way. Mm-hmm. And so I'm looking forward to next week, part 2 of our friendship study. And we've been able to lay down the foundation for what the Bible has to say about friendship. And I'm sure everything from this point on will match what the Bible has to say, because we all want to be and want to have friends.
That's a blessing. And the study's been good. And we want to pick this up next time when we come together. But right now, we want to pray. We want to pray because seeing the principles of what friendship are, it's probably realistic to say that there's some things that you saw, that's not how we treat each other. It's not how we treat our friends. It's not how we're treating our spouses. It's not how we're treating those sort of students. It could be a situation, that's not how we're treating our children. Or even children may recognize, that's not how we're treating our parents. And so that's what we want to pray also too. And ask for the Lord to, as He's shown us what to be, so by His Spirit, that's what we become. So let's pray, girls. Everybody, let's come together now. We want to pray. Father, in the name of Jesus, we thank you for learning the values and virtues of godly friendship. Friendship in and of itself is not always good. It's just two people that keeps coming together in agreement. But we want to come under sanctified agreement. We want to come with a desire to do what you said to do, to be what you said us to be. And some of us are in a tight spot. We may be married to someone who doesn't believe in you. We may be in relationship or have parents with people or someone who does not believe in God. And so that's very hard. We're still connected, but our ultimate goals are not the same. Jesus, we're praying for grace right now. Grace that each of us who have the capacity to choose our friends would not make that choice to not be unequally yoked. But if we are in a situation where someone may be disagreeing with us, someone may be in a different place or have a different goal, but we're in relationship, help us now to make the determination and have the prayer in our hearts that Jesus, what we saw as a good friend, help that to be us, regardless of what the other person may or may not be. Help us to be faithful to you, regardless of what other people may decide or decide not to do. Help us to not be whisperers with crooked mouths, but to be able to say out loud and to say in love whatever it is that we need to say, because what we have to say is good. So Jesus, we thank you that as we take inventory on friendship in these next couple of studies, that it will ultimately push us closer to the only one who's worthy to say, I'm your friend. And I've done it to show you that I've even died for you. Just follow me. If we look to you as our friend, Lord, all of us will be better friends with one another. This is our prayer, and this is our faith. In the name of Jesus. Amen. Amen. We have some.